Today we are looking at the next set of cards for Origins Riftbound Tcg featuring the Body Rune. Let's go! Alright, so last video we looked at the Mind Rune and the cards that are in that color. This video we are going to look at the Body Rune. Before we start, we're going to do the same thing that we did last time here. We're going to look at the champions so that it is in the back of our minds when we start looking at the cards and giving our first impression on it. So first one here is Volibear. And when you play a mighty unit, you can channel Rune Exhausted, Lee Sin buffs a unit, MF gives a unit gank, set here, so buff unit you control would die, pay or recycle a rune, and then you can exhaust set, and then they just come back, so they live. And the other cards as well here is Master Yi, so when a friendly unit defends alone gains +2, and Garen here, when you conquer, if you have 4+ units at that battlefield, draw 2. So looking at the legends here, how we are going to look at the cards, we're going to look at obviously the buffs, card effect, so something like they gain buffs, or if they have a buff, they do something, that kind of thing, which is useful for these two legends in here. We will also consider cards that are mighty, so 5 might and more, for decks like Volibear and MF. In addition to that, also we just look at ways to ramp so we can get to those areas faster, and then things like that we've already seen, for example in the Calm Rune, which are like units that could defend alone and they gain more, and that works well with Master Yi right here. So cards that work with that, we'll look at that as well. As for Garen here, I guess if there's units that can put more units on the floor, they'll be worth considering as well, or more units on the board rather, not on the floor, sorry. Alright, let's take a look. The first one here, we have a gear for a 3 cost arena bar, buff an exhausted friendly unit. For tap, this gear does not do it for me, unfortunately. Maybe you put it in the dedicated decks that are like like Lee Sin, very dedicated buff deck to gain an extra buff, because Lee Sin, when we looked at it, the card just essentially means I can have more buff on me, which is kind of the uses of the buff. Let's just look at that card again here quickly. This one here, you can have any number of buffs, so you can add more buffs to Lee Sin, but will it be good enough? Probably not. No. Yeah. Next is a 6/6 unit, or 6 might unit here for 6 cost, Bilgewater Bully. When I'm buffed, I have ganking, so this one's nice. Anything with that are big units that will have ganking, they seem to be very good. So if there's a way to buff this easily, so Lee Sin can buff this easily. Yeah, and then this will have an extra effect when you put it with set, right? So you could have this unit, buff him, and now next turn he can just go to the other battlefield, kill them, and if you go even on the trades, you can just pull him back with set and he will live, right? So reads like a set card, and yeah, let's go. Next is the Body Rune, very cool, diamond there, and then look at this, rocks and shiny crystals and stuff like that, very nice. I've talked a lot already about the runes and I keep talking about them, but I really just enjoy how they did that. Next is Cannon Barrage, 2 cost spell here. The 1 rune, reaction speed, deal 2 to all enemy units in combat. So this one's really neat. unfortunately, so a card like this could be a hard side deck card because a deck like Victor exists, right, or something like that, where they have tokens. You can just slam this and they just deal, the token just die, and you win trades. This is also at reaction speed, so very nice. So I expect this card to be playable. Next is Challenge, 2 cost with thing there as well. 2 cost, 1 rune. Action speed. Choose a friendly unit and an enemy unit. They deal damage equal to their mights to each other. So this one is basically a removal spell. This you'd probably expect in the Volibear decks, Master Yi, and the... Actually, you probably go in all of the orange decks, just because buffs also kind of help with this, right? So, but so yeah, it is nice though, because when you have decks that are huge, you just basically, this becomes essentially just a kill spell for that. So, very cool. Next we have Confront, 2 cost units. You play this turn, enter ready, draw 1. That reads very well. Because it's a draw. We're at the worst, it's a draw, but for that turn, all the units you play enter ready, so that is really good. But the weird thing with that, obviously, is it's for more aggressive type decks, but which, by the looks of it, the effects of the card don't really read aggro. It's yeah, more mid-range and late game type card. So yeah, the other thing though, this reads like a Garen card as well. So you could probably put like enough units so that they can conquer and you get the effect, get interaction. But with that being said, I could see this still getting played just for the draw and the upside there. It's just a bonus. It's not really what you use it for, probably more of a bonus there. Next we have Crackshot Corsair, 3/3. When I attack, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit here. Okay. Basically trades up when it attacks to 4, which is cool. So I guess there's a lot of like dealing damage as well, small, but at a smaller count for these cards. The nice thing with that in this color is that buffs exist, so you're basically trading up quite a bit, right? So before you were trading, for example, this one can probably trade to 4, but now it becomes trading into 5 because of the effect. So very nice. There's a lot of stuff in there, or you can just kill something outright. So yeah. Again, the effects of are not like crazy, which is okay. It's just all getting closer to vanilla levels, but it's still pretty good that it had the upside. Next is Dune Drake, 5 cost, 5 might. When I attack, give me +2 if there's a ready enemy unit here. Okay. This one, while the effect is nice, unless there's an card that kind of forces our enemy unit to be ready, it's not as good. Just because there just needs to be kind of like a condition for this effect to go off, otherwise just super vanilla, right? I mean, granted, I guess this one does too, but the condition of this is much harder than the other one because it has to be a ready enemy unit. They have to be ready. So if they're not ready, you're kind of just out of luck with that. But there is a mighty unit, so maybe it's worth considering in something like Volibear, but probably not, or even MF, but maybe not. There's probably other cards that are going to be better than this. Next is First Mate, 3/3. When you play me, ready another unit. Oh, so we were just discussing if there's another or a card that will ready and then another unit. I guess this one here is one of those. It is kind of expensive though, 8 cost, but yeah, but it is what it is. Or no, you don't play at the same turn. But it's nice that there is this effect here. I wonder what else this will benefit for others, or what benefits it will give to other cards. I do want to see more of the card, but the effect seems strong, especially when it's set one, especially on the first set type of cards that we have. Next, we have Flurry of Blades, 1 cost. Reaction speed, deal 1 to all units at battlefields. I feel like... oh, this one's just in combat. I gotcha. I thought this one... Okay, maybe this one's not as good. Cannon Barrage. Because, yeah, this has to be in combat. This one doesn't have to be, so you can do this. And it will also kill other stuff when they're not in combat if you're in combat on something. Alright, or hit those. Yeah, for 1 CP or 1 cost, it's alright. But yeah, I wonder if it's good enough. I guess it essentially you could view it as +1 might for 1 cost with a little bit more upside to that. So yeah, I could see it getting played. I just don't know if it will be super played, because some of the effects are already so strong, or some of the spells are already so strong, especially in green and red that we've seen already. We haven't seen the other ones on purple and yellow, but yeah, it's not bad. Just the other one's probably better. Next we have Mobilize, channel 1 rune Exhausted. If you can't draw 1 for 2, this one just gives you a ramp. If not, just get a draw. That's pretty good. So I expect this to be on volley decks, probably misfortune decks, because you want to get, you know, volley. You want to be able to play your mighty. For misfortune, you want to be able to play your big thing so that you could abuse her ganking. So that's where I expect that. Even maybe in like Master Yi as well, because if you get big units and then you can just have them defend alone, they become even stickier. So that's really good. Not much for buffs though, so probably not for the other ones. Next is a 3/3 Pentakill Hidden. Hidden's good because it becomes cheap and you just kind of play it. So say you stall a turn, you know, just so you play this. So this becomes good as well, something like this, because you go just essentially get a free unit, because later on this effect kind of just is not as good. So you just want to be able to kind of find ways to just use your recycle for the rune cost, so that you have something to use the volley effect on for a few extra turns, right? So kind of negates the hidden somehow. So yeah, so I just view this as a free unit, 3/3. This card is very playable. Next is Pet Rookie 2/2. When you play me, buff another friendly unit. So this one's just good, simple 2/2. This one is, yeah, it gives a buff +1, which can go away until the end of turn. So just gonna stays. So if that's the case, yeah, I just expect Pet Rookie to be played on most, if not all, orange decks, just because, you know, early game card, just get to play something, which is really good. Next is Stormclaw Ursine, 7/6 tank. When you play me, channel 1 rune Exhausted. So we talked about kind of exhausting runes later. So this one here is a 7/6, so you want to kind of see it closer to when you still have runes to channel. If you don't, then, you know, it's kind of not as good. And then at the same time, you kind of want to use the other cards then, so that you could use the effect of this. And unfortunately, unlike Mobilize here, where you can draw if you can't channel anymore, this one just does nothing at that point. It does have tank though, which is pretty good. I just feel like other cards might just be better, right? So Next we have Catalyst of Aeons for 4 cost, channel 2 runes exhausted. If you couldn't channel 2 runes this way, draw 1 card. Alright, so just mobilize here, but a little faster. So if you think about it, this one, if you play this on turn 1, you will be at turn 1, channel 1 rune, 3, and then next turn you'll be at 5, turn 3 you'll be at 7. In here you channel this at turn 2, so you'll be at 6. At turn 3 you'll be at 8. Alright, so I guess roughly the same. I think just there's need to see if there's a big bump from 4 to 8, or not 4 to 8 rather. There's a big bump from 7 to 8 or 9 to 10 in terms of runes, but in theory as well, though, we've seen that some cards do have costs, like this here or this, where you recycle. So in that way, having an extra rune compared can actually be better, right? For example, if you're at 7, you recycle, you'll be at 6, which is kind of a turn behind compared to if you go from 8 to 7, you're still roughly around the same kind of turns. So yeah. So I believe Catalyst of Aeons might be like the one that you max between the two. You probably play like 4 of this in your ramp, and then maybe like 1 of this just as an extra ramp, so you don't fully miss, if ever, right? So that's what I think. Something like that would be like kind of the break, or yeah, 2-2, but most likely you max this out because it's just probably a better effect than this one. Next is Tithria of Cloudfield 2-1. When you play another unit, buff me. Also, this one buffs the character itself. You probably want Pit Rookie over this, but at the same time, this one, oh no, this is when you play another unit, every time you play another unit, so this could get, oh no, it's buff, so it doesn't, unfortunately. We've discussed that this is the biggest problem with buff, is that buff only happens once, unless there's cards that allow you to have more buffs, like the Lee Sin. Buff will only be 1, so yeah, unfortunately you can't even combine the 2, right? So most times you would probably just want to play Pit Rookie over Tithria. I just don't see why you would pick Tithria over Pit Rookie, but maybe in a deck, I'm just thinking, what deck would you play? Tithria 4, I just don't see it. I think you just play Pit Rookie. The stats that you get for Pit Rookie just seems better at even. Yeah. So that's that. Next we have 4/3 unit Herald of Scales, or 3 might unit, sorry, for 4 cost. Your dragon energy costs are reduced by 2 to a minimum of 1. Ooh, okay, that's neat. I like this because now you can make actual dragon decks if you want, and pick whichever legend fits in that. So cards like this are fun, because it also gives kind of like like a deck, a theme, more, you know, very thematic. And with that also being said, it is very possible in the future that we get a card, or a legend rather, that works with like dragons, right? So that's very nice. So this card is something you'd probably want to watch out for. If not this set, eventually in the future, there's probably a card that makes this really good, because energy costs getting reduced are always good, you know. This becomes 3/5 is way better, right? Obviously you didn't need to be on the field, but that idea, right? And there's gonna be decks that are probably gonna be good enough to do that in the future. I don't know if now is that, but yeah. Next is a 4/4 with 1 recycle, or 4 cost unit, 4 might with 1 recycle. Kinku Monk. When you play me, buff 2 other friendly units. Yeah, this one's neat. Definitely just fits in the buff deck. You know, buff deck essentially just put buff tokens and everything, so that's nice. Other than that, though, I just don't see it. It requires you to have 2 units already on the field. That's not Kinku Monk, so, and they also could not have buffs yet, so it's a little too expensive for what it does. So yeah, definitely a buff-centric deck card. Next is Mountain Drake, 9 cost 10, vanilla. So yeah, like we've seen from the other colors, so even is generally vanilla up to like 5/5, and then the higher you get, the more might you get per cost. This one obviously works with Herald of Scales, reduced cost, so 7/10, right? Works with volley, but that's about that. I don't know. Again, the 9 cost. Maybe there's some uses to it, but yeah. Maybe if the ramp is fast enough, you'd probably play cards like this, just because they're just so big. It's so hard to stop, right? And then while your opponent could be at, say, you know, they're playing their cards at maybe 6 costs, you're already playing cards like this, Mountain Drake, and slamming it on top of them. So it's gonna be hard to stop, right? Next is Pirate Haven. When you ready a friendly unit, give it +1 this turn. 3 cost. Cool, but not probably gonna get, this gear probably just is too expensive, and then you have to get ready a friendly unit. So you need the, when you ready a friendly unit, if this works in the sense that readying them, or this effect applies at the after the awaken phase, then I could see it being okay, because everything gets +1. But if it doesn't work that way, then yeah, where readying a friendly unit only works when you do it basically after your draw step, then yeah, this is even just definitely not playable. But other than that, that's the only way I could see this being played. Next is a 4 cost spell there with 1 rune, Spoils of War, reaction speed, very nice. If an enemy unit has died this turn, this costs 2 less, draw 2. This one's very good, I feel, because from what we've seen with Might, and this reaction speed, by the way, so we've seen with Might, we've seen with Master Yi, we have seen you know, with Set and MF, you can trigger the killing of an enemy unit just because your units tend to be bigger. So 2 costs, draw 2. Yes, there is a rune cost to it. We've seen that as well, but yeah, for draw 2, it's not bad, especially on a color that might need it. Next is Unyielding Spirit, 1 cost. Prevent all spell and ability damage this turn. Okay. Maybe you just play this because you don't have any other better effects. It's cool to negate the damage of spells and abilities, but eventually this card will just get phased out of the decks. It's good at the beginning, unless, you know, the meta is just super heavy on spell damage and ability damage compared to combat damage, and that's all everything is around for. So yeah, this one could be a card that will fit in a sideboard, just in, you know, just to prevent, say for example, if there's a lot of Kaisas, right? We've seen that the spells in red are insane, and so without expecting a lot of Kaisa to play that, this can just counter one card, counter that. at least for that turn, right? So instant reaction speed, so you can keep some stuff alive and force them to, because then when they use their Kaisa, it's gonna go tapped as part of the cost. Then now they can't use, or they'll have to actually use the recycle ability, or recycle cost, not ability, sorry, because they've already used the Kaisa ability, what I'm trying to say. So yeah, expect this is definitely playable, but eventually this card will go one of two ways. The meta will have a lot of spell and ability damage, in which this could be more useful, or it will just be all about combat still, in which this card will just kind of start losing value. Next is 2-cost spell, Wallop, an action speed. As you play this, you may spend a buff at an additional cost. If you do, ignore this spell's cost. Ready a unit. Okay. If you have buffs, definitely Lee Sin, definitely on set decks, it's worth considering playing this. It just readies a unit, so it allows you to say move to something, ready, and then move them back to kind of save them, right? For free, basically, just using a buff. So in essence, it's the set effect without the cost. So there's possibilities to this being very, very useful. Next is a 4/3 unit Wild Claw Shaman. When you play me, you spend a buff to buff me and ready me. Oh, okay. So basically you play this, and then if you have buff somewhere else, you can spend the buff, and then this gains haste. So that's very neat. We've seen how expensive Accelerate is, and this guy basically gets Accelerate just by spending a buff. That reads pretty good, and I expect this to see play in the buff decks. Next is a 7/8 unit with 2 rune cost, or 7 cost. Sorry, I keep saying 7/8. That's like it's a 7 attack, 8 defense, but now in here when I say that, it's always cost and then the might. 7 for 8, essentially. It's like 7 for 8, or 8 for 7. That's what I meant. 8 for 7. In fact, when I attack, deal 3 to all enemy units here. That could be pretty good, right? Because it's a late game card, it's definitely a threat. Works very, very well with Misfortune, right? You play this card, attack, kill 3 units, right? And then it will have ganking, so it can gank, so it's attacking again, quick, faster, instead of having to go back to base before it can attack again. So stuff like that. I expect this to be in Misfortune. In volley, maybe, and then in other decks, probably sideboard, just to make sure that you handle decks that are aggressive, because it deals 3 to all enemy units. But yeah, if you can play this cheap, yeah, cheap, good, especially in like volley bear when you ramp, it just goes up fast. On something like Set or Lee Sin, Set maybe a little bit more playable. Lee Sin probably don't want this, or they probably just, not that they don't want, they probably just don't care about it. The other cards just seem better. Same goes for something like Master Yi. Next is a 6 for 5 with 2 runes. Carnivorous Snapvine. When you play me, choose an enemy unit at a battlefield. We deal damage equal to our mights to each other. We've talked about the other card, Riptide Rex, I believe. Let me just check. That's what it was called here. The blue card, I remember seeing it. The 6 cost. Yeah, Riptide Rex. Play me, deal 6 to an enemy on the battlefield. Basically, that's what this card is. It just comes. The only difference is this one gets hit back, it gets blowback damage, but that's still pretty good. And yeah, this is still pretty good. This strong unit, a little cheaper than Riptide Rex because of the blowback damage, but usually that part's not relevant. You're not gonna pick something that, for the most part, you're not gonna pick something that could kill you, but if you have to, you will. So that's the flexibility. It is cheaper. You could add a buff to make it stronger and deal more might. So it could even have a higher upside than Riptide Rex. But yeah, so this card's very good. I expect this to see a lot of play. Next is 3/5 with, or 5 for 3. It costs the runes, 2 runes, and that accelerates. It's an assault. As you play me, we spend any number of buffs and additional cost to reduce my cost by the rune for each buff you spend. Okay. So this is for the rune cost. You spend 2 buffs, it becomes a 3/5. Do I want to do that? Maybe not. Maybe it could, like, yeah. You probably play this if on the buff decks for sure. It's because it's super high costed, right? If you can afford to remove 2 buffs to just play this as a natural 3/5, this card is insane. It's so strong for the cheap cost that it is, right? So at 4, so basically a 4/1 for 5 that attacks for 6. So, but you don't need to use the accelerate if you don't want to. You can just play for 3/5. So yeah, pretty good. Expected on the buff decks. Lee Sin 6/6. So this is the other Lee Sin. So you can accelerate it. Other buff friendly unit at my battlefield have +2. Okay. So the Lee Sin cards, there's 2 of them. They look like the nice, like, I'm gonna compare it to a little bit to Ahri. So when you saw Ahri, we saw 2 versions of Ahri, and the 2 versions of Ahri that we've seen basically gives us 2 types of decks, completely different decks, right? I'm gonna compare it to Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is, we found one that automatically probably the one that we're gonna use. The other version of Kai'Sa is more of a card for decks rather than your champion unit. With Lee Sin, I feel like either option would be it. The other one gets unlimited buffs. This one buffs more units. So it just depends on the flavor that you like, really. Roughly the deck feels like it will play the same. You know, the other one though is just a little bit more fragile, the other Lee Sin, because you'll be tempted to buff Lee Sin more, but that's not really ideal. So basically but this one, yeah. Let's quickly take a look at the Lee Sin. Just a quick thing here. So this one here, though actually the shield seems pretty nice. I probably would rather just play this. Just don't fall in the trap when you play this Lee Sin of putting all your buffs to Lee Sin. Basically what that is that card does is you just buff, and then if you have nothing else to put the buff on, buff Lee Sin. But otherwise, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? And this one here, it gives your other friendly units buffed, so basically you're playing it the same way, right? You're buffing everything else, and then but this one here, just when it goes to a battlefield, you get a turn or a hard defense, basically. So you hold quite crazy. Yeah, it really just feels like for both Lee Sin, it's whatever flavor of Lee Sin that you want. You could probably, both decks probably feel and build roughly the same. So yeah. Next we have a gear, 3 cost, Mistfall. When you buff a friendly unit, you may pay a rune and exhaust this to ready it. That feels super expensive. Just to get it, actually it's not bad, but you're also paying for the gear and making sure that you're playing a gear when you can just be playing better cards in the deck. But maybe buff decks want it. I don't think so. I just don't think that aggro buffs still. Maybe it is the play with some of the Lee Sin cards that we've seen like this. But maybe I just feel like you just play better cards or better deck. Because yeah, Lee Sin hasn't, like the buff stuff hasn't been super, at least the one that will be for Lee Sin. Because set, you just kind of don't care about this. You just want some stuff that gets buffed every time. So yeah, Overt Operation, 5 cost, spell, 2 runes, action. For each friendly unit, you may spend its buff to ready it, then buff all friendly units. Okay. Good effect, just a little too expensive, but you probably still wanna kinda play it anyway. There's probably one as a one-off on the buff decks, right? Spend the buffs, ready them, and then they gain their buffs back basically, and then yeah. Cool. One problem. Oh. Now, it gives all buffs to friendly units. So even if you have one, you can just spend that to ready it and then buff everything else. That's how something like that is neat. Though it's probably not gonna be a max of, but the idea is cool. The only thing with this though is it is at action speed. So why does that matter? Because you're spending all the buffs. So once you remove all the buffs, you are susceptible, I believe. Yeah, because then this will be action speed. Right, I have to check the ruling. If you lose your buff... Oh no, it won't work that way, because then you gain it. Oh, it's you may spend it, so never mind. So I'm thinking, you know, someone reacts to this to damage it. Alright. But then you think you may, so this happens. You choose this after they damage, if they react to it. And then, yeah. And if you can just choose not to spend the buff to keep your units alive, so yeah. Yeah, so I expect just a small, like, you play this or one of this just to try it and see if it feels good. Next is Primal Strength, 4 cost, 1 rune, action, give a unit +7 this turn. A little too expensive, but it is a good stat. You're right, so maybe we see this get played. It feels like the other stuff just seems like it's overkill. It's probably already so hard. If it was reaction speed with like this, just because we could try to save something with this. Otherwise, yeah, because it is action speed, we are just throwing basically cards away. Because we will do this at action speed, and then your opponent, instead of you getting an advantage on your opponent, because you still probably react. They probably just like, oh, it's +7, I don't care, just let it die and keep my cards and keep my resources for the future, right? But if it was reaction speed, you know, your opponent can use their buffs and buffs, slam this on top, and then now they're like, oh, you just wasted all of that resources, right? So reaction speed is just so much stronger. Next is Kiana, 4 for 4, 1 rune, deflect. Oh, opponents must pay. It was kind of hard to kill her. When I conquer, draw 1 or channel 1 rune exhausted. Very good. We'd like this. For pretty sure we'd like this on all the decks. No, you just draw, or if you want to ramp, you could use that. Either one is better. It's good. Right, so you just play this on those decks, and yeah, enjoy. An easy addition to basically probably a staple right now for orange. Next we have Sabotage, 1 cost. Choose an opponent, they reveal their hand, choose a non-unit card from it and recycle that card. Oh. This feels strong. Feels really strong. Just because it's information. Now, with that being said, I don't know if any of these decks would play something like that, right? Maybe the Lee Sin deck, unfortunately, or like the buff Lee Sin. Unfortunately, maybe that's the only one that would like to make sure that your opponent can't kill the Lee Sin when you kind of pop off or something like that. Yeah, and Non-unit card. Yeah, this might be a side deck card though. We've seen spells be crazy. We've seen some gear be okay, right? So yeah, this probably right now just a side deck card. I don't know if I'm gonna main deck this. The effect is really strong though. In something like Lux, if they had a card like this, it would be crazy. Even in like Kaisa, right? Like it gives you just knowing information of what your opponent has can allow you to play around it, and that's very strong. Next is Udyr 6/6. Spend my buff. Choose one you have not chosen this turn. Deal 2 to a battlefield on a unit. Ready. Or give ganking this turn. I mean, it's a strong unit, so you put it on decks that this card can get buffs from. You might play this one as a one-off on like the Volibear or the Misfortune, just because you're probably playing like Pentakill, right? So this is something that you can buff. But other than that, really, it's yeah. And then you can rebuff it. The nice thing with this is you have ways to do multiple buffs a turn, and you can get more of the effect. So that's cool. It's also cool. Yeah, playable, but not a staple compared to like Kiana. Next is Volibear. Shield 3 tank. When an opponent moves to a battlefield other than mine, draw 1. Very expensive. Very expensive. But it seems like a very good effect. The question is... Oh no, moves to a battlefield. Okay, yeah. So this one is... I think if I'm playing Volley, I prefer this over the other one. Let me just quickly look at the other one here. This one here, when I attack, deal 5 damage split among my enemy units here. Like this one also seems very good, but I think the way if you're gonna play Volley is you play this as your champion, and you put the other Volley in your deck. Like you don't need to play 12 of these, or 3 of these rather. Sorry, you probably only want one, and you want to play the other stuff. But it's such a threat, right? So when you can actually play it, it's hard to kill. So yeah, maybe you want this in Master Yi as well. Play this in the Master Yi, because then now you have an insane shield that, you know, your opponent really don't want to come to that battlefield. They probably, unless they could kill Volibear, which means you're just drawing cards because your opponent, this guy's just holding, right? Unless they try to kill it. So Volibear, expect that reads very well for a Master Yi deck. And then yeah, probably you play one of this as your champion on the board, and then you play the other Volibear as the Volibear in your deck. You're playing this in Volibear. This one obviously is also really good in Misfortune. I know it's a late game card, but like I'm saying with Misfortune, if you can gank or if you can set it up so your deck basically is, you know, I'm just losing my train of thought. But if you could set it up so you're faster than your opponent and you just ramp, you play this with ganking. Now your opponent's at forced to basically play everything on the other battlefield. You gank that battlefield. Now Volibear is just like killing that board because of Misfortune, and then like, you know, it's a strong card for sure. 6 skin. This one. Cool. Next we have Warwick 6/5 or 5/6. When I enter ready, automatically haste. When I attack, kill all damaged enemy units here. Whew, I like that. That's very cool. Bloodlust. Yeah. We've already seen cheap effects that just deal 1 damage, so I can see why they don't deal more. Expected on those decks. Warwick, would you? Yeah. Because the thing with the damaged enemy units, they have to be basically damaged by abilities or spells and not combat damage, because if combat damage just basically will heal, right? So in that sense, you don't really care. So that doesn't work with Warwick. So yeah, in that sense, just yeah, we definitely see this played. It's level playable. It enters ready, right? So it just kind of kills things. It could kill things bigger than it as long as they're damaged, because it's not like it's combat damage that will deal with it. They just gotta make sure that they're damaged, right? So probably Volibear loves this, because not only is it a mighty, Volibear is in red. There's also more damage spells in there. So if you can't reach killing, say, a Volibear of your opponent, right? You just hit it, and it will be damaged, and then play Warwick, go in and attack, and now that big Volibear is dead. So yeah. Next we have Dazzling Aurora, 9 cost, 2 rune. The gear, that's an expensive gear. At the end of your turn, reveal card from the top of your main deck until you reveal a unit, play it ignoring its cost, and recycle the rest. Well, this is insane. This is insane. I'm just thinking, how quickly can we get to 9? 2. So turn, and assuming we are turn, you probably want to be turn 2 if you're playing this deck. So you got 3 runes at the beginning, right? So turn 1, or turn 2 rather, you could play this Callus of Eons. You will be from 5, you'll be at 7 at the end of the turn. And then your next turn, so basically by turn 3. By turn 3 you will be at 9. Play this at turn 3, and then start dropping Volibears on your opponent. Volibear, Carnivorous Snapvine. That's insane. So a deck like this, you'd probably just put big units at the end, right? You don't like strong big units. You don't. So a deck like Dazzling Aurora, you'd probably not want to play. Whatchamacallit? You probably don't want to play something like, how was I saying? Dazzling Aurora, you probably don't want to play like Pentakill. So those are the we were talking. We said Pentakill is a staple in orange. Probably not on a Dazzling Aurora deck. What is Dazzling Aurora good in? This one for sure, right? Because then you exhaust the 2, and then you just kind of anything you play, right? MF for sure, because now you have, if you control one battlefield, everything that comes out of this will just have, you can just give ganking, and that's insane. Master Yi, probably it could as well. You just put big units in the base. Next turn they're just being alone, and then you can just keep stacking up big units in base. Set, probably not. I haven't seen any of the big units with buff that gives buffs. Maybe you put the gears and stuff that give buffs, just so you have ways to buff them. So I could see it being playable there. Probably not the best type of deck though. Lee Sin, at that point just play Master Yi. If you're gonna think about playing Lee Sin, Dazzling Aurora, just play Master Yi, I feel, at that point. Because Master Yi just feels like they could use the effect of this and utilize that better. Because just imagine having a 12 or 12-15 Volibear by turn 4. How is your opponent going to deal with that turn 4 Volibear? And you're just drawing cards because they can't score on where Volibear will be. And the crazy thing of this is it's at the end of your turn. So the first one you play, it's gonna be in your base. Next time, by the turn it gets back to you, it's at the battlefield and you have all your mana up back. That's insane. This card is nuts. If you're playing orange, try to build a deck around this. This card is insane. That's all I could say. Speaking of high-costed units that we want to play with Dazzling Aurora, here's another one. I wonder if the effect's good. 8/8. Deflect, you may play me at an unoccupied enemy battle. What the heck? So if your opponent, so you just kill something, right? To play me at an occupied enemy battlefield. So if you pop this with Dazzling Aurora, something's gonna die. That's what. Yeah, Dazzling Auroras. Wow. I thought gears were bad, but yeah. So I believe there was a card that says kill a gear. Kill a gear or something like that. I believe it was in blue. Kill a gear. Kill a gear. That's when you play a gear ready. Was there not a card that says kill a gear? Let's see, I'm just trying to find it here. There's a card that says kill a gear, kill a gear. I thought there was. I thought it was like the another Yordle. Sorry, we're just kind of looking at the cards here. Okay, maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm just... Oh, here. When I conquer, kill a gear. Thanks, grab. Yeah, you probably play something like this on your side deck, just so you can kill Auroras. Because, yeah, Dazzling Aurora, that card is insane. In this card is what I feel would be very, very high in kind of like the meta. Maybe an insane card like this, I expect to see a lot of people playing with this card. It just reads so well. I know it is a little bit reliant on kind of having them come out in order. For example, you might pull a Deadbloom Predator without an occupied enemy battlefield. It is what it is, but the cost is just so high. The units are just so big and just so good. Same with this. Like, this is obviously a more reactionary effect, but the offset, just you didn't have to really pay for it. You pay for it once and then you could do things in your turn, while then you just still got a big unit, right? So it's crazy. This just feels crazy. Next is Misfortune, 5/5, accelerate ganking. For time I move each turn, you may ready something else that's exhausted. What? So you could probably play this too, like your Aurora decks, right? They move somewhere, you kill something, then the unit will have ganking, the huge unit will have ganking, they'll move to the other one. So many combos with ganking, and I just feel like, yeah. This Misfortune, I want to see the other one and see if that's better, but this just feels like it works with this Dazzling Aurora and everything else with the big units, because you just basically ready that things that are exhausted, which is insane to me. Because what's gonna happen too is either you ready a unit or you play a unit, basically that the big unit, because your decks are just gonna be big, right? So you'll play that, they'll be exhausted. Now Misfortune will just untap them. Now they could do things on the turn you played them, and then Dazzling Aurora is gonna play another one at the end. Like that insane, insane. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen. So just before I continue, I haven't seen much. I feel for the buffs, which is kind of sad because I thought this effect is really good. Maybe it's not as good now that it seems because the buff feels really weak. Like it exists, but you still need to kind of build a deck around that. So this one, it's alright. I probably don't want this. I said the last time that blue probably are one of the weaker ones. I think this is the weakest one so far that we have seen. Why is that? It's because of this card right here. As much as we wanna kind of reduce the cost of something like this, we really don't want to get rid of our runes if we can get to this as fast as we can, right? I'm thinking of the math now, by the way, with if we can get to 3 with mobilize, so 3, 4, turn 1, turn 2, 6, turn 3, 8. Yeah, no, it's not. So that's exactly what we were thinking earlier. So yeah, 100% you'd run this. Next is set. When I'm played and when I conquer, buff me. Spend my buff, give me +4 this turn. Okay, so that's strong. Unfortunately, oh, when I'm played and when I conquer. Okay, so that's cool. That's cool. So basically with set, yeah, you just gain the buff every time he conquers. So that's pretty good. I want to see the other set and see which one's better for our boss here. Cool. Like this art too. Looks like I'm trying to remember. Look at that Ryu art for one of the Street Fighters. I think was it the Fortnite? No, it's not Fortnite. There's one art that's like Ryu smiling like this, looking goofy. But yeah, that's it. All right. So yeah, similar to what we've done at the end of the videos, we'll take a look at some of the cards and see which ones we like the most. For the spell, it's probably Catalyst of Vaeons here. Again, you just get a draw in the channel 2 runes. So, because right now all I'm thinking about is this card right here. This is so insane that this is basically a card that you kind of just build around, right? And just put good big dudes. Let's actually see the red and the green cards. I haven't seen the rest of these, but let's look at the red and green cards and see what big units they have, because right now it's just all about Aurora now, right? So in green we have Yasuo, which is cool. We have this, we have Leona, Blitz, technically Ari might be a good one in that Dazzling Aurora, because you play it. Yeah, I think playing Yi, probably just slam this if you have a Volibear on where Volibear is, if this is what you end up pulling, and then now Volibear that battlefield just scoring too. It's kind of nuts. Yeah, not much other than green. In red, yeah, Volibear for sure. Oh, Tryndamere. There, yes, not as much though. Oh, okay, that's just this turn though. So you play it in this turn. That's not that's basically vanilla in Aurora. Oh, this one, Magma Worm. Magma Worm might not be bad because actually it doesn't really matter. They just enter ready. Yeah. So yeah. So far we don't really care about the other color so far, at least that we've seen. There's nothing in the other color for Yi and Volibear that will super take advantage of Aurora. Just it exists, they're cool. But in addition, but think about it in this way. If you're playing, I want to see the purple card, which we're going to look at next after this video. But so far, between the two, if you're playing Aurora, it might be Master Yi. Not that this card bad, the effect is really good in here as well. It's just that the cards that support it. So if you're playing Master Yi, you have access to Sonya's, which is insane. So Aurora with Sonya's, like your dudes, your big units will not die. You have access to something like whatchamacallit, where's that? Defy. There we go, Defy. So that makes it even harder. Maybe you don't even play Defy and you play what that other one, the actual counterspell one, Wind Wall instead. Right? So instead of playing Defy, you play Wind Wall instead. Because why? Originally this one is a thing, but you'll have big units, and the way to kill big units is with big cards. Just have a Wind Wall ready. Like that is just insane. Master Yi is looking like the deck with that. You don't need a lot of units, just have them, then they're buffing up in there. So in Volibear, we were looking at, you know, removal. There's just a lot more removal, and while removal are cool, you're basically having your own kind of set of removal by being able to play big units, right? You're more proactive in a way, and you just need to make sure, you just need to find ways that you can protect those big units, which is more readily available in green than it is in red. Red is more kill. So maybe Dazzling Aurora isn't as crazy in a Volibear deck now that we look at the other cards, right? Not saying that it's not impossible to play, it's just not as crazy as if you played it in like a Master Yi that you could protect those big units, right? But anyway, in terms of cards, I think Kiana just in staple, and then the big cards that just match with Dazzling Aurora, like Bloom, Volibear. But this is an insane card, and yeah, it just puts at least, I believe, even Garen here, which I put it like when my initial tier list at the bottom. Maybe the yellow just have access to some stuff that could make this useful. If there's a lot of like spells in yellow that are basically say play units in a, not units in the sense that, you know, not units in the sense that you're playing cheap cost units, but more so in the sense that you could play tokens, right? If it has lots of that, then you can just have like Volibear sit on one, play the tokens on there. Now you'll have, or no, you have to conquer with this. Never mind. Just ignore this effect if you're playing this. Honestly, but it makes Garen, Dazzling Aurora makes Garen, if you love the champ, even more playable. Because if you can just ignore the effect, but if you say I really love Garen, I just want to represent Garen as my legend, you can totally do that with Aurora. That's just how I feel how strong this card is. Alright, and basically that is it for this color here. Next we'll be looking at the Chaos Rune. Very exciting. I like how the cards are looking on this. Very different feels, and it's really nice how they kind of also incorporated, for example, like Shadow Isles in here and Bilgewater and these colors, right? So that's very cool. Alright, and if you've enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe there. We'll definitely be going for more cards and talking about them some more. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, thank you for watching. And last but not least, of course, drink your veggies.